Most Sonic glitches are harmless, little bits of broken code, funny bugs you laugh about and forget. But the map I found wasn't a glitch. It wasn't even supposed to exist. It was something else entirely. Something watching me, something waiting for me to open it. And when I did, my life stopped belonging to me. What you're about to read isn't a game bug. It's a warning. I never believed digital horror stories. All those creepypasta legends, Hero Brian, Lavender Town Syndrome, Polybius, they were entertaining, sure, but fiction. I liked scary stories as much as anyone, but I never imagined I'd end up living one. Never imagined a simple Sonic map could destroy everything I thought I understood about what's real. It started on a Sunday night, the kind where the world feels just a little too quiet. I had been cleaning my room, sorting through old boxes of childhood junk, action figures missing limbs, notebooks filled with awful drawings, old game cartridges. The nostalgia was overwhelming in a weird, numbing way, like stepping into a memory you didn't realize still hurt. At the bottom of the last box, I found a scratched-up USB drive. No label, no markings. It looked burned on one side, melted slightly around the edges as if someone had touched it with a lighter. I didn't recognize it, but something about the shape felt familiar, like I'd held it before. I should have thrown it away. I should have never plugged it in. But curiosity is a predator disguised as a friend. When I inserted it into my laptop, the only file on it was called Sonic_map. exe size, 666 megabytes. Cute. Someone's idea of a joke. But my Wi-Fi was down, and I had nothing else to do. So I opened it. The screen turned black for about 3 seconds. Then it flashed white. Then the game opened. It looked like a Sonic ROM. Pixelated, old school, quiet. Too quiet. There was no title screen, no menu, no cheerful Green Hill Zone music. Just Sonic standing on a completely black background, tiny blue pixels flickering slightly, like he wasn't fully rendered. Something immediately felt wrong. There were no options. No levels to choose from. Just one command blinking beneath Sonic. Enter map. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. It shouldn't have felt ominous. It was just a fan hack, right? But the silence in my room seemed to thicken. The air felt stale. I suddenly felt watched, though the door behind me was closed. I hit enter. The screen glitched, hard. Jagged lines stretched across the screen like digital veins, pulsing, snapping into place. Then the map loaded. Except it wasn't a map. Not in the normal sense. It was a winding, impossible maze, long corridors that shouldn't fit in the screen's aspect ratio, twisting paths that overlapped in ways actual game geometry couldn't allow. Some areas were pitch black. Others flashed white like broken fluorescent lights. Sonic stood at the start of a narrow corridor. Except he wasn't blinking. His idle animation wasn't playing. He was frozen. I pressed the arrow key to move. Nothing. I pressed space. Nothing. I tried to exit the game. Alt plus F4. Escape. Control plus Alt plus delete. Nothing worked. The game refused to close. Then Sonic moved, without me pressing anything. Slowly, like something behind the screen pushed him. He walked into the corridor alone. The corridor dimmed behind him, like the game swallowed the path once he passed it. My stomach sank. This wasn't a map. This wasn't a game. This was a one-way path. I sat frozen, watching Sonic move deeper into the maze. The silence became oppressive, like the audio was trying to load but couldn't decide what to play. Occasionally, muffled static pulsed, quiet at first, then louder, then gone. Halfway down the corridor, Sonic stopped. His sprite flickered. Once, twice, then his face changed. No longer cheerful, no longer neutral. His mouth was stretched into a thin, unnatural smile, something you'd expect on a mask, not a character. And his eyes were yellow, not glowing, not stylized, just wrong. The kind of wrong that makes your skin crawl and your heart drop because your brain knows something is deeply, dangerously off. Then the sound returned. A faint tapping. No, not tapping. Footsteps. Slow. Rhythmic. Behind Sonic. But nothing was visible on screen. Sonic kept walking on his own. The footsteps followed. I reached for the power button on my laptop. It wouldn't respond. The game trapped me. Sonic entered a larger room, if you could call it that. The space was huge, stretching into darkness, with walls that looked like wet stone instead of pixel art. The textures weren't 16-bit anymore. They looked real. Photorealistic.
Wrong.
And then the map name appeared in red text. The back walls. Not back rooms. Back walls. Before I could process it, I heard something behind me. My chair creaked, like someone was leaning on it. I spun around. Nothing. But the air behind me felt colder. Heavy. Like something had just moved. When I turned back to the laptop, Sonic was gone. The camera view was now first person. Walking. Breathing. Not Sonic's breathing. Human. The corridor walls scraped loudly, like something too large was squeezing through. I tried the power button again, nothing. I tried ripping out the USB. It burned my fingers. I dropped it onto the carpet. The footsteps in the game multiplied. More than one set now.
Faster.
Closer. Something chasing the player. The sound came through my speakers louder, pounding, like whatever was running in the game was now running right toward. My door creaked.
Softly.
Then stopped. I stared at it, heart hammering. The game audio synced perfectly, a final step right outside the player's view and right outside my room. Then the door handle twitched. I froze.
Completely.
Not breathing. The handle twitched again. On the screen, text appeared. Do not look away from the screen. I didn't want to look away, but I didn't want to look at the door either. My hand shook violently as I reached slowly toward the mouse. Maybe I could pause something, trigger something, anything. The mouse moved by itself, dragged across screen.
Stopped. Clicked.
The camera in the game whipped around. Something was behind the player. A shape.
Tall. Blue.
Its head twisted at an impossible angle. Yellow eyes. It lunged. I screamed. The screen went black. Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. For 4 seconds, there was nothing. Then the laptop speakers crackled. A whisper. Not Sonic's voice. Not robotic. Human. Too human. It whispered. You shouldn't have turned around. My blood ran cold. Every hair on my body stood straight. I felt a presence behind me, heavy, leaning in close. I didn't turn. I didn't breathe. Then something cold brushed the back of my neck. I bolted out of the room, nearly ripping the door off its hinges, sprinting into the living room. My hands shook violently as I tried to calm myself, gasping. Minutes passed. Nothing moved. Nothing followed. Finally, I gathered the courage to return to my room. The laptop screen was dark. The USB drive was gone. Not on the floor. Not in the port. Not anywhere. For the next 3 nights, I didn't sleep with the lights off. Any shadow, any flicker, set me into panic. It felt like something behind me would appear if I turned too fast. Then the map reappeared. Not in a game. Not on my computer. On my wall. A long, dark corridor stretched beneath my bedroom door. Impossible geometry warping under the frame. It wasn't a shadow. It was too defined. Too alive. At midnight, the corridor stretched longer. The lights dimmed. Footsteps echoed behind the walls. Something scraped at the floorboards. And every night since, it gets closer. I should start by saying this. I'm not easily scared. I grew up watching horror movies, playing nightmare-fueled games, and exploring every weird corner of the internet I could find. Nothing really got to me. Not until the night I found the hidden corridor, an area inside a Sonic fan game that wasn't supposed to exist. People talk about Sonic EXE like it's some overused legend, a meme, a creepypasta that's been milked dry. But what I stumbled into wasn't a joke. It wasn't a mod. And it definitely wasn't some troll's attempt at a scare. It was a doorway. A doorway into something that felt conscious. Watching. Waiting. And the worst part?
It remembers me.
Everything started a month ago when I downloaded a fan-made Sonic game from a random thread on an old forum. The post was anonymous, the link had no description, and the title only said, "If you know, you know." Most people ignored it. I didn't. That was my mistake. The file was oddly small, just 84 megabytes, and named bluedev_maptests.exe. No splash screen. No dev credit. No music. The game launched into what looked like a normal Sonic 2 level, Emerald Hill Zone at sunset. The colors were slightly muted though, like washed-out VHS footage. Sonic stood at the start, but he wasn't smiling. His idle animation was off. Subtle but wrong. His expression looked tired. Or afraid. The background ambience didn't match the game either. Instead of upbeat music, I heard wind. Just wind. Fast, constant, the kind that presses against windows before a storm. I moved forward. Everything worked fine at first, loops, springs, rings, but something felt uncanny. There were no enemies. No monitors. No animals. No checkpoints. Just an empty, dead level stretching too far in one direction. I kept running for what felt like minutes, and the level never ended. Sonic's animation began to glitch slightly the longer I moved, frames skipping, colors flickering like static crawling over him. Then the game froze. I thought it crashed, but after about 5 seconds, the screen faded into black, and a single message appeared. Do you hear it? No sound. Just the text. The game continued by itself, loading me into a completely different environment, dark, metallic, claustrophobic. A familiar but distorted tune played in the background. Not music, just a warped humming sound, like audio dragged backward across sandpaper. I recognized the tiles immediately. It was Chemical Plant Zone, but the layout was wrong, stretched, crooked, flickering. As if the whole level had been rebuilt by someone who only vaguely remembered what the original looked like. This wasn't normal level design. It felt like a memory. The deeper I went, the more the game resisted. The frame rate dipped. The controls lagged. Sonic's sprite twitched like something was jerking him by invisible strings. Then I reached an area with a massive pit, bottomless, dark, and silent. Right before the edge, Sonic stopped running on his own. His head turned toward the screen. His eyes were wide. And the game forced a message. Don't look down. But the level design left me no choice. I had to jump. The moment Sonic fell, the screen began to flicker violently, frames of something flashing by too fast for my mind to process.
Blue. Red. Teeth.
Darkness.
Static.
And something that might have been an eye. The game crashed to desktop. I should have quit right there. But I didn't. Because on my desktop, a new file had appeared. Corridor.wrm. I didn't double-click it. I didn't touch it. But it opened anyway, exactly 10 seconds after the game crashed. It wasn't a game. It wasn't a video. It was a text document. Only one sentence inside it. You're close. Keep going. That was all. No glitching. No jump scare. Just a quiet, confident message from something that knew I'd return. And I did. I launched bluedev_maptest again, and the game didn't load the title screen. Instead, it went straight to the same dark level, except Sonic wasn't there. I was seeing the zone without a player character. As the camera panned forward on its own, the wind audio grew louder. No longer ambient but textured, layered, almost patterned. Something was inside the sound. Something breathing. At the far end of the metallic hallway, there was a door. A simple white rectangle of light. The camera floated closer. A slow, dragging, scraping noise crawled from the speakers. Then the game crashed again. This time my PC froze for real, mouse locked, keyboard unresponsive, fans revving loudly, like the system was choking. The screen went black for a moment before resetting. When it rebooted, another file had appeared on the desktop. Echo.wave. I played it. A whisper. Not words. Just breath. Cold, steady breath. Too close. I removed my headphones immediately. The whisper continued. Without headphones. Like it had seeped out of the speakers. That's when I shut the PC down and decided I was done. But it wasn't done with me. That night, I dreamed of the hallway from the game. Except this time, I was inside it. Bare feet against metal. Air freezing. Light dim and flickering. I could hear something behind me. Dragging. Slow. Awkward. Not walking, pulling itself along. I force myself to look back. I wish I hadn't. At the far end of the corridor, a blue shape twitched in and out of the shadows. White gloves. Red shoes. A familiar silhouette, broken, hunched, had tilted unnaturally to one side.
Sonic.
But wrong. So very wrong. His eyes. They weren't glowing red like the fan stories.
Worse.
They were empty, hollow voids that seemed to swallow the dim light around them. He opened his mouth, and rows of tiny, needle-like teeth extended far too deep to belong in something that shape. He whispered, "Keep going." I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. I didn't sleep again. The next morning, I turned on my PC to delete everything. But bluedev_map_test was already running. On its own. No input. No click. No launch. It was just open. This time, the screen showed a level I'd never seen before. A long, straight hallway with flickering white lights. The camera was placed low, almost touching the floor. And Sonic, broken, twisted Sonic, was standing in the distance, barely visible. As I stared, frozen, the text appeared. "You left." That wasn't very fast. The game waited, like it wanted me to respond. I typed on my keyboard, not into a text box, just blindly, and the letters appeared in the game itself. "What do you want?" The answer came instantly. "A witness." Sonic stepped closer. His movements were jittery, like his bones were bending wrong under his own weight. His head twitched violently with every step. I tried closing the window. Alt F4 did nothing. Task Manager wouldn't open. He kept getting closer. Another message appeared. "You open the corridor. Now you walk it." Suddenly, the game window expanded, full screen, then stretched beyond the boundaries of my monitor, as if the edges were melting outward. Then everything pixelated. Not glitched, pixelated, like my vision was turning into the game. The screen went black. Then a final message. "Look behind you." My heart nearly burst. I didn't turn. I couldn't. I sat there, paralyzed, staring at the screen as the message pulsed slowly, invitingly. "Look behind you." I squeezed my eyes shut, counted to 10, and shoved myself out of the chair. When I finally forced myself to look, nothing was there, but the air behind me was cold, and the floor had faint scratch marks leading to my desk. Perfect little lines, like claws. For the next week, the game opened by itself at random times. Sometimes when my PC was off. Sometimes when the monitor was unplugged. Every time it showed the same thing. I never believed sound could haunt a person. Not music, not whispers, and especially not those cheap, overused horror sound effects in creepypastas. But the sound I'm about to tell you about wasn't an effect. It wasn't recorded. It wasn't even inside my speakers. It moved. It changed rooms. It followed me. It crawled under doors. It learned my breathing patterns. And it all started because of a stupid decision I made out of boredom, downloading a forgotten Sonic fan game ROM called Sonic Map Archive, prototype number 0. I found it buried in the replies of an old YouTube comment thread, posted by an account that had been deleted 9 years ago. The link still worked. The file still downloaded. And the comment that contained it said only, "Don't load the sound test. Whatever you do." That should have been my warning, my escape, the moment where a sane human would walk away. But curiosity is a dangerous parasite. It hooks into your brain like a claw and drags you toward things you know you shouldn't touch.
And I touched it.
As soon as I opened the ROM, something felt wrong. Not scary, not creepy, just wrong. Because the game didn't have a title screen. No Sega logo. No press start. It booted straight into the level select menu, but most of the map names were corrupted, just garbled ASCII symbols, flickering in and out as if the game was fighting to render them. But 3 names were readable: Green Hill, Starlight, and a strange one I had never seen in any Sonic game: Reverb Field. That name alone should have given me chills, but what made my chest tighten was something else entirely. The bottom of the level select screen had a faint audio waveform pulsing across it, as if the menu itself were reacting to a sound only the game could hear. Except, I could hear something too. A low, trembling hum, like someone blowing softly across the top of a glass bottle. Faint. Hollow.
Wrong.
At first I thought it was a glitch in my headphones, but when I unplugged them, the hum stayed, coming from the monitor itself, vibrating through the casing. I clicked Green Hill. The level was empty. No rings. No enemies. No animals. Just Sonic standing there with a blank expression, not smiling, not blinking, staring forward like something behind the screen had its hand wrapped around his spine. The music didn't play. Instead, the hum deepened, slowly, steadily, like something awakening. I moved right. Sonic ran, but his running animation was slower than usual, like he was forcing his legs through mud. The sky was sickly pale. The trees flickered at the edges as though they were being erased and redrawn over and over again. And then the screen shook once, hard, and the game froze. The sound cut out completely. Silence filled the room, and for a moment, I swore I could hear my heart thumping in my ears. Then a message appeared on the screen. Load the sound test. I stared at it, confused, remembering the YouTube warning. My instinct said no. My curiosity said yes. And a third, quieter part of me, something primal, whispered to turn off the PC and walk away. I should have listened, but instead I pressed start. The menu glitched instantly. The numbers in the sound test menu weren't numbers. They were timestamps. Very specific timestamps. 3:11:4:02, 6 hours 66 minutes, 1:13, 2:09. 5 sounds. 5 files. 5 something. The waveform on the bottom of the screen spiked sharply, like whatever was making it had jolted awake. The room felt colder. Not metaphorically. Literally. My arms prickled. My breath fogged slightly in front of me. I pressed the first timestamp. At first it sounded like static. Not loud static, soft, distant, like a radio struggling to pull in a signal from miles away. Then a faint rhythm emerged beneath it. A heartbeat. Not human. Too quick. Too deep. Thump, 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 thump. Then a scraping sound, like fingernails dragging across wet stone. The moment I paused the track, something in the corner of my room clicked loudly. I spun in my chair. Nothing. Just my desk, my shelf, my door closed. I pressed 4:02. This time, the sound was unmistakable. Breathing. Slow. Heavy. Not like someone tired, but like someone trying to listen while they breathed, trying not to be heard. I felt a sharp sting of fear crawl across my scalp. I paused the sound. The breathing continued. Not from the speakers. From behind me. I turned around so fast my chair nearly tipped. Again, nothing. Just the faintest shift of the shadows in the corner, as if something had been there a moment earlier. My hands trembled slightly as I hovered over the next timestamp, 6 hours 66 minutes. That alone should have been impossible. I pressed it. The sound hit me like a punch, sharp, metallic screeching layered with glitching distortion, but underneath it, underneath everything, I heard a voice. Not speaking. Laughing. A hollow, breathless laugh, like metal scraping against teeth. Sonic's sprite on the screen twitched violently, frame skipping as though possessed, and the room around me seemed to tighten, the air compressing against my chest. The waveform was going insane now, spiking so fast it looked like a constant wall of static. I slammed pause. The sound did not pause. The screeching continued from my left. Not the speakers. Not the monitor. The wall. Something inside the wall was dragging metal across the wooden beams. I stood up instantly. The sound stopped. Silence. Crushing silence. My heart hammered. I hovered over the next timestamp, 1:13. I didn't want to play it. Every instinct screamed at me not to. But as I reached for the power button on my PC tower, the game unpaused by itself. My hand froze midair. The sound from 1:13 began playing. A child's voice. A child whispering a single word, over and over, too quietly to make out, until suddenly it sharpened, clear as a blade pressed against my ear. Listen. I staggered back. The voice didn't come from the monitor. It came from directly behind my head. I spun around so violently I felt a muscle in my neck snap. Nobody. Nothing. But the whisper lingered like the ghost of warm breath on the back of my ear. I jabbed at the keyboard to exit. Nothing happened. The menu was frozen. Sonic's sprite stared at me with wide, blank eyes, no pupils, no reflections, just empty white circles that looked too human. Then the sound test shifted on its own to the final timestamp, 2:09. I didn't press anything. The screen dimmed, and the audio file began playing automatically. At first, I heard nothing. Then, slowly, a sound crept in.
Faint. Smooth. Wrong.
Footsteps. Not normal footsteps. They were soft, dragging, uneven, like someone walking with one broken leg and one bare foot. The step shuffle, rhythm grew louder and louder. And then I realized with horrifying clarity. The sound wasn't coming from the game. It was coming from my hallway. I yanked off my headphones. The footsteps were clearer, moving just beyond my bedroom door.
Step.
Shuffle.
Step.
Shuffle. I stood still. Completely still. Barely breathing. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. And the child's voice whispered again, this time on the opposite side of the door, impossibly close. Listening is how it finds you. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. And then gently, softly, the doorknob began to turn. My stomach dropped into ice. The metal clicked faintly as it shifted. Left.
Right. Slow.
Testing. Feeling. I backed away, step by step, until my legs hit the edge of my bed. The door rattled once, sharply, as if struck by a single knuckle. Then silence. The game unpaused on its own. The screen flickered,